Hey everyone, this is Steve from GamersNexus.net, and today we're looking at the Logitech G Series drivers for the mouse and keyboard and other G Series products. So this is the accompaniment, the video accompaniment to our G600. That's what you see here, the G600 review, which is published and linked below in the description of this video. Click on that link to read the full review of the G600. But this is this is the mouse. You have 12 buttons here on the left side, thumb side, and it's just 4x3. And then you have the normal left, right, and middle mouse buttons. Of course, the middle one can scroll or press. You can lean left and right with it, which is good for tilting or leaning in a game like Call of Duty. There are two different elevation buttons right here, and then there's a what they call a G shift button for your ring finger. And personally, I think this one's pretty cool. You hold it down, and it gives you a different set of key bindings for all of the buttons on the mouse. So if I hold it down, it'll change what all of these things do to a different set. If I release it, it goes back to the default set. Pretty cool. In total, there's something, I don't know, something like 20 buttons. It's pretty insane. So you can store these profiles either locally on the mouse or on the system that you're on. Storing it on the mouse is pretty cool because if you take it to a LAN party where you're using a different machine, as long as they have the software on there or you're allowed to load it, you can load up that profile and just go. It's that easy. With this, you just store it straight to the machine, so that's what I will do. Here's the actual, this is what we're looking at here. For bindings, I've already programmed a couple of these. As you can see, I've programmed an alternate toolbar, a break-free finisher move, and this is a profile I'm building for Rift. So the mouse does ship with a couple pre-built profiles. I was not happy at all with the one that ships for Rift, so I am building a custom one. Let me just unassign these so I can do the demo for you. And basically, it's very simple. Oops. The way it works is you click on the button, you can do edit. You see here we have all of our options. You can do a keystroke, which is just anything like Shift Y, for example. Multi-key, a text block, which is good because if you're trying to spam guild recruitment text in chat, you can basically type like, hey, join our guild, blah, 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 and hit the button on the mouse and it will spam that and everyone will hate you, but you won't have to type it, so good for you, I guess. Mouse functions, these are normal functions on pretty much any mouse except there are DPI up, down, and shift buttons, so that's pretty useful if you change DPI a lot. The media center commands here are for Windows Media Player or your other default media players. Hitting a button with this bound to it will execute the command even if you have Rift or other games open. So for example, you can play or skip songs that are already loaded in Media Player. Hotkeys, these are normal Windows things, cut, paste, stuff like that. Shortcuts, just for launching applications, very simple. Functions, more Windows stuff. Calculator's kind of cool, but totally not necessary. And Ventrilo, of course, for voice over IP needs. And you can mute and unmute microphone or sound while full screen by hitting a button, so that's kind of cool. You don't have to minimize to do that. And what we are going to do, though, is a basic keystroke we will start with. So first of all, the goal here is to use something that you're not going to be able to hit easily with your keyboard, like Shift left bracket. That's just so far out of the way, I'm never going to hit it, and it gives me an extra key that I can that wasn't already being used in Rift or other MMOs. So that's pretty useful there because it does give you more options if you want to have like 3 toolbars on your screen simultaneously and you were running out of reachable keys on the keyboard. You can now bind unreachable keys or macros or whatever you want to call them, combinations, to the mouse. So we will call this alternative toolbar 1. And basically this will be for my second toolbar on the screen. I already have one toolbar that uses 1 through equals, and then I will have a second toolbar that uses these buttons, so I don't need to switch toolbars, which of course increases user input latency and decreases your competitive advantage in PvP. So now let's do basically what I just did is bind this to shift bracket, so I can press that and execute a command on a toolbar. The next thing I'm going to do is create a simple macro. So we will call this combat finisher. How about that? And this is what I will use on my assassin class when I'm trying to execute a series of abilities in succession without the potential for me screwing it up by hitting the wrong button. And you can record delays if you want to, but I will have a long macro set or a long ability execution timer on the game, so that these will just queue sequentially and then execute as each one finishes. So let's record this. We'll just say it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then for sake of example, shift plus left bracket, and stop recording. So now if I hit the front middle button, this one here, it will execute all of those in succession and then sequentially use the abilities in the game. Pretty simple. You can tell it to repeat if you want to while pressed. It'll just keep repeating over and over, or tell it to toggle, like if you're doing a crouch toggle. So that's how that works, and the rest are all fairly simple, really. You can bind to actual abilities like break free I've done here, but that's all you need to see there. G shift, that's that rain finger button. If I hold it, you can now see these are all green. That's a second set of options, and that's basically useful if you need more than these buttons to do stuff. That's why you would do it. That's why you'd use G shift. So that's that. Let's go on to the next screen here. We have Dpi Sensitivity. Very simple. You can enable a certain amount of levels for DPI control. I only want 3 because that's all I can handle, and I will use 1400 DPI for sniping modes because I want a lower sensitivity when I'm scoped. That way I'm less likely to screw up and miss. I'll have this as my default sensitivity. I've already assigned it as default, as you can see over here. And then I'll have this as my shift sensitivity, which is a Logitech function. So if I use the DPI shift key, it will shift temporarily to Uber Twitch speed, which is almost 3000 DPI. Report rate is just the hertz reports per second, so I think that's in frequency, which would be hertz from the mouse to the unit, and I've set that to 500 at 1000, which is a kilohertz. I've actually had issues with the mouse freezing in other profiles, so I will not do that. You can enable per profile pointer settings, as you see here. If I want Dota to have different sensitivity levels than Rift, I can do that. And then finally you have colors, so you can do full RGB spectrum here, and basically just you see in the background there what's happening to the mouse. Pretty cool stuff. You can set the opacity if you don't want it to be crazy bright. Well, you should be able to set it. Oh, it must not be happy because of something I've checked over here. Yeah, there we go. So you can set the opacity, and if you select the lighting effects here, you can tell it to cycle lighting like this. You see over here there's a full RGB or RGB color spectrum. You can do pulse lighting, which as you're seeing here will just pulse on and off, and you can increase the frequency with which it does that. I don't want to have a seizure, so I'm disabling it. You can also tell it to go to sleep when you're when you're idle for so long, so it doesn't kill the LEDs. Won't really conserve any power though. It's only like a watt. And then there are per profile backlight settings, which are just pretty cool. You can make each profile a different color. That way it's easier to track which profile you're using. And then this is just the settings page. There's nothing useful to see here other than a couple toggle settings. So that is really it for the software for the G600. Check out the link below for the full review. I really encourage it. It's a pretty good mouse, but does have very specific applications, so it's not for everyone, as with all mice, of course. And I've had fun with it in MMOs. Our reviewer who worked on the mouse, the actual review, said he personally does not have as many uses for it, so it really just depends on who you are and what you're doing. Check out that link, and I will see you all next time. Peace.